What's up, everybody? So, slow progress is being made on getting the hobby area set up. Still got lots of stuff to organize and whatnot, but I got overhead lighting done. And doing that painting ramble that I did, or paint a pot ramble for organizing and cleaning that up, got me thinking about storage. Because part of this hobby that is known for the actual gaming side of it, but is kind of an unspoken thing on the hobby side or the creating side of it, is storage, organization, and storage. We have it figured out for the gaming portion, right? Army transports for our armies, no problem. Holds the armies in there, holds dice, holds some glue to make some on the spot repairs if necessary, measuring tape, anything else you need, rule book, army lists, the army itself, of course, and so forth. That's all figured out. A lot of options nowadays for sure for doing that, which is cool. But on the creating side of it, storage is one of those things you kind of figure out as you go. Maybe you look up some articles or some stuff on the web about it. So I want to talk about it myself, kind of go through what I use, not because it's the best, just because it's what I use. I don't think there's really a best case for this because it depends on your space, how you like to store things, organize things, and what have you, and what you're going for. So let's give you what I use, my thoughts on it, and how you can find it if you're curious. And I encourage anybody else to share what they do, new or old hobbyists alike. What do you do to store things? Shoebox? What? To share it. Let's make this kind of a little hidden gem database, if you will, for information on storage via the video and in the comments below. So with that said, I'll first talk about paints, being that that is the idea of cleaning up paint pots is what got me thinking about this, really. And that is storing the paint pots that are good, that you have. Storing paint is, I think, a never-ending battle. Not because you're buying new paints all the time. You will be replenishing paints, buying new colors of paint to try things out or do whatever the case might be. If you pick up a second army, a second game, whatever it is, you might need more paint for that. It happens. But on top of that, you are going to be constantly taking paint to use and then maybe storing paint you don't need to use. Let's say you're painting one particular army, you're probably going to have all the basic colors you need to get the armor and the cloth, whatever the case might be, skin tones, whatever out there. But then depending upon what else you're doing on for what particular squad or vehicle or what have you, you might bust out some other paint that you won't normally need. And then you put it away, bust out some other paint, so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of ways you could store paint. A shoebox, of course, but if you want more of a permanent, specific method, there's two ways that I go about it that I think are really good. One is the tackle box method. Now, a tackle box is gonna be a really nice thing to use for the hobby, not just for paints. It can also hold pin vise drills, hobby knives, clippers, files, paintbrushes. It's gonna hold basically be your basic hobby storage kit in and of itself. Even the most basic of tackle boxes tend to have two layers to them. A tray you can remove and the bottom part, which is deep enough to hold paint, depending on the pot, completely upright. So what's nice about this is it's self-contained, it's mobile, it's not going to be something that's going to take up space in your work area. For the longest time, I had a very small work area. Now, it's not like my work area now is massive, but it's much more of a permanent fixture, a permanent setup, whereas in the past, I've always had a mobile setup, a temporary setup I can easily pack up because I never had the space for it. So if you're in that situation, school, whatever the case might be, an apartment, whatever it might be for you, a tackle box is really great because it doesn't take up precious real estate for the area you're going to be actually painting in or on. And you can store it in a closet, store it under the table, store it somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It's decent storage for the price, for sure. Just make sure you buy empty tackle boxes. Some tackle boxes come with tackle in them. Make sure they're empty. You can go as extravagant or as basic with the tackle box as you want. And while it's great to hold paints, that's for sure, it also, like I mentioned, you can hold a whole bunch of other hobby stuff too. And it's great for being mobile as well. If you're going to go to a buddy's place to do a little painting session, or you're going to go to a hobby store to do a painting session there, you can pack up everything into a tackle box and go. So even if you don't want to keep it as a permanent storage or more of a long-term storage, you can definitely use it as your mobile little workstation, if you will. I've had one of the two I own. I tested it a while ago. You can put a cutting mat, which is a nice little work area, some paper towel folded up, the paints you need, the paint brushes you need, the clipper, the glue, basing material in a small little container, the bits that you need to build a particular model, even the water pot dry because you don't want to put water in there. Everything I needed basically except for light, and the actual water itself was able to fit in the tackle box, and it's not a particularly big one either, so definitely worth it. For a more long-term setup that will take up some real estate, but it's definitely worth it, I use a paint carousel organizer. You can use paint racks. Some people have wall units that they actually mount onto their wall, holds all their paint. Some have a rack that sits on their painting desk or painting area like this carousel does. Some people have a really extravagant setup. It looks like they're selling paint, but it just holds all their paint. It's really cool. I use a carousel setup. This particular one's from Paint Tier, and I have the Paint Tier 80. The number signifies in general how many paints can be stored on it, and it's 4 tiers of it, hence Paint Tier. The very top of it can hold brushes, and there's space between the brushes and the paint to put some, like a glue thing here and there as well, so it can hold a bit more than what it might initially seem like. But I recommend the 80 over the 40. They also make them bigger. I think the 80 is a very good size. It's not too unwieldy tall. And while it does take up real estate, the footprint it takes up versus the amount of organization you can do with it and the paints it can hold is more than worth it, in my opinion. It's a little pricey. I think the 80 is like $50 or something like that here in the States. But I think it's definitely worth it. Maybe it's 60, I forget. But a worthwhile investment. You will have to build it yourself. It comes in a package, but with instructions that are very easy to follow to build it. I built mine, no problem. Like I mentioned, it stores brushes as well. And it's a carousel, meaning the different rows spin. So you don't have to worry about like turning the whole thing. You just turn the level you need. You can have one level for metallics, one level for washes, one level for base colors. But you can organize it however you want. It's a nice thing. I definitely recommend it. But anything, racks, whatever, will work fine. So, for that being said, that's paints and also some hobby supply stuff as well. I don't know if Citadel still makes a little paint station that you can put in your lap or you can put on a table. I make that as an honorary mention or stuff like that because that's the little workstation you're going to have set up, and it's great because you can put paints on there, brushes and your paint pots and palettes and all that, cutting mat. It's all great. It's not really storage though. It's like the work area, but your work area, the more you organize it, the better you're going to have for making use of your real estate. So that's why I make mention of it. While you might think, I got a table, I can just put down old newspaper and paper towels, whatever. I don't need something like this. And that's true. But something like this can help go a long way in organization if it flows with you. And that's not going to flow with everybody. So it all depends on where you're able to do your painting and so forth and how you are. To store some of the bulkier stuff, some bigger stuff, just some generalistic storage. Sterilite has these like tower drawers, and there are other companies like it. You can get them in different sizes. I got mine, I believe, in a Target or a Walmart or both. I forget. So any type of store like that, you should find something like these Sterilite drawers. I like them. The smaller ones can hold some work in progress models, some blister pack stuff, paints even, yet again, hobby tools and so forth. Some of the bigger drawers, like I have a small, medium, and a large size thing. The large one stands pretty tall. I want to say around 4 feet tall or whatever, and has some pretty deep drawers. So you can organize it to hold some of the kits in their boxes. If you want to keep them in the box or out of the box and their sprues, you can organize that way. So you can have one to be like what you're working on, pull the sprue that you're working on in there. or if you got stuff from Forge World or other resin products, you can do the same deal. You can put paper towel down, and what you can do is you can clean up all of your bits, wash all the release agent off of things, and then let it dry on a better paper towel with that closed to kind of really limit the amount of dust potential or whatever else particulate in the air that could get on your model, so you have a nice, as clean as possible model, as dry, or at least model pieces to work and paint with. Just a lot of all-purpose storage, and they're handy. Again, the footprint versus how much you can store there keeps things organized, keep things some clutter out of the way, and it just helps free up some space. Plus, you can always store light stuff on top of it too, for decoration or just for completed models before going into the army transport or what have you. With that said, bits. In this hobby, particularly with GW stuff, not so much other things, but I know for sure GW stuff, you're going to have bits left over with their kits, especially if you play Space Marines, but even I've seen Eldar bits, Tau bits, it happens. So if you do a little search for small parts storage, you're going to find a multitude of different ways you can store things. I recommend what is kind of referred to as a I don't really know what you refer to it as, but they're like little cases, little organizers from different companies that have removable dividers, so you can kind of change up the size of each individual area. These are great for organizing bits. They make them in different sizes. You can have standing upright units that look like you run a hardware store, or you can have little briefcase style looking ones of different sizes as well. They're great for organizing parts for like real world application and nuts and bolts and all that. And our bits are small enough where you could have one be purely Space Marine infantry, or one be purely orcs, the other one be vehicle bits for if you're going to do orc conversions and whatnot and looted stuff. So while yes, the small Starlight storage thing can do the same thing, while yes, some tackle boxes come with little bins to store like weights and hooks and whatnot, which you would have empty, and therefore you could do bits there too. But I definitely recommend investing in something small to store bits to get a head start on organizing. You may just be getting into the hobby. It doesn't matter. I highly recommend figuring out a way to organize your bits. Label it and keep up with it, because this lets you really reduce on clutter. You can save some sprue cut up for base material. That's a great thing, and that'll be a topic for another time. But whenever you build a kit, whatever's left over, what I like to do, for example, with Space Marine torsos might be left over, because it can happen. I like to glue the back and the fronts together. That way it's ready to go as a torso, and use that in storage, because then the pieces won't get lost as easily. It's just easier. Stuff like that, keep on top of it, get it organized, and you'll be happy in the long run, that's for sure. Anyways, that's just some of my thoughts. Everything can be bought online on like Amazon or something. A lot of stuff can be bought in Target and Walmart or a Home Depot type of stores like that as well. I will have a lot of these things. So anyways, when in doubt, I always Amazon it myself. But that's what I do for storage. The Paint Tier 80, by the way, or the Paint Tier stuff in general, you can either get from their website or on Amazon. I've never seen it in person at a store for sale. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just never seen it myself. And don't discount, like, if you ever see like a Hobby Lobby or type of store or an arts and crafts store, give them a look-see, browse them. You might see something for storing bits or storing paints or brushes, since that's what they do, stuff similar, not our hobby necessarily, but they have stuff of the same concept. So you might find some inspiration for storage and organization there as well. Anyways, thanks very much for sticking through this ramble. Share your thoughts on what you do for organization and storage, and let's have a little database happen here for anybody that stumbles across this video. Thanks a lot for your participation, or at the very least, just listening to me babble on. And until next time, take it easy.